Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and get a real look inside the mind of a pilot. We're not just talking about the buttons and switches, but about the actual script, the playbook, that takes a regular person and turns them into a certified aviator. So let's jump right in. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? You look up, you see a plane slicing through the sky, and you wonder, what does it actually take to be the person in control of that machine? How do they get it up there? And more importantly, how do they get it back down safely? Every single time. Well, here's the secret. It's not magic, and it's not some secret club you have to be born into. It's a process, a very specific, very detailed 46-page script. This is the playbook that every single pilot has to master, covering everything from checking the weather to, handling a complete engine failure. And you might be surprised where it all starts. It's not in the air. Nope. The most critical work a pilot does begins long before the engine even turns over, right here on the ground, with a series of checks that are absolutely non-negotiable. Before a pilot even thinks about touching the plane, they have to check the most important piece of equipment, themselves. It's called the I'm Safe checklist, and it is a moment of brutal honesty. Are you sick? Stressed? Tired? If there's any doubt about any of these, you don't fly. Period. It is the very first line of defense. Okay, so you're cleared for takeoff. Now it's the plane's turn, and every single aircraft has to have its paperwork in order. This acronym, AROJIL, is basically the plane's passport. It's got the airworthiness certificate, the registration, all 7 of these documents. If even one is missing, that plane is grounded, no exceptions. And here we go, a pilot's first real dance with physics. And it happens on the ground. See, even when you're just taxiing, a strong gust of wind can literally get under a wing and flip the plane over. So pilots memorize this mantra. It tells them exactly how to position their controls to fight the wind to keep it from taking over before you even get to the runway. All right, let's get off the ground. Once a pilot gets the hang of just flying straight and level, the training really ramps up. This whole next phase is about pushing the airplane to its limits, on purpose, so you can develop a real feel for how it behaves when things get unusual. But before you intentionally stall an airplane or put it into a steep turn, you take a time out, every single time. It's called the Hazel check. It's a safety pause. Do I have enough height? Am I in a safe area? Is the cabin secure? How's the engine? And, maybe the most important one, have I done a good lookout for other planes? It's a safety habit that gets burned into your brain. Now this is one of those situations that can get a pilot into serious trouble, and fast. A spin and a spiral dive can feel weirdly similar, but from a physics standpoint, they are polar opposites. In a spin, you're stalled, falling like a leaf with low airspeed. But in a spiral dive, you're not stalled, and your airspeed is screaming towards the red line. Using the wrong recovery technique here could literally rip the wings off the plane. So how do you fix that spin? You don't have time to think, you just do. Pilots drill this acronym PAR until it's pure reflex. Power to idle, ailerons neutral, rudder opposite the spin. And then, the one it feels totally wrong, elevator forward. You push the nose down to get air flowing over the wings again. It's a 4-step dance that stops the spin cold. Pilots also learn how to fly uncoordinated, on purpose. It's called a slip. A forward slip is like hitting the air brakes. You can drop out of the sky without picking up speed, which is perfect if you're way too high on your approach. A side slip is more subtle. You use it to fly slightly sideways into a crosswind, keeping your nose perfectly lined up with the runway even though the wind is trying to push you off course. You know, all of this training, all these advanced maneuvers, it really all comes down to this: the very beginning and the very end of every flight. Takeoffs and landings might only be a few minutes of your time in the air, but they are absolutely where pilot skill and decision-making are put to the ultimate test. And of course, not all landings are created equal. A short field landing is aggressive. You're trying to stop on a dime, so you come in steep and get on the brakes hard. But landing on a soft field, like grass, that's the complete opposite. It's all about finesse. You carry a little power, hold the nose up, and try to have the wheels kiss the ground as gently as possible so they don't dig in. But this right here, this might be the single most important rule of landing. It doesn't matter who you are or how good you think you are. If your approach isn't stable, meaning you're on the right speed, the right path, with the right configuration, by 200 feet above the ground, the decision has already been made for you. You power up and you go around. Ego has no place here. It's just procedure. So what happens when the playbook goes out the window? What happens when things go wrong? Well, the final part of a pilot's training is dedicated entirely to that. It's all about building a calm, methodical response to situations that could otherwise be pure chaos.
Okay, just imagine it. The engine goes silent. Your first instinct might be panic. But a pilot's first instinct is procedure. You immediately start flying a pattern. And it all begins at a point called the high key. 1,400 feet directly over the field you've picked out. This is square one for saving the flight.
From that high point, you begin a controlled spiral downwards until you hit your next gate, the low key. At 800 feet, you should be flying right alongside your landing spot. You're constantly judging your altitude, your glide, making sure the plan is still going to work. And finally, you reach the final key. You're just 500 feet off the ground, and you make that final turn towards the field. From this moment on, you are committed. The big decisions are done. You see how this structure turns a terrifying emergency into a manageable step-by-step problem to be solved? It's incredible. And that procedural thinking is most critical for these nightmare scenarios. I mean, when there's smoke in the cockpit, you don't have time to pull out a checklist. These procedures, for any kind of fire, have to be memorized, burned into your brain so you can react instantly without thinking under the most intense pressure imaginable. This is the real final exam. So, from the ground up, from basic checks to life or death emergencies, becoming a pilot is really about mastering a script. It's this amazing mix of knowledge, skill, and just pure discipline. And it makes you wonder, right? What other complex skills in our lives, whether it's being a surgeon or a chef or a coder, have their own hidden playbook, just like this one?